Happy Fitness Friday!
Happy Fitness Friday, everybody! We are happy to be here this Friday. We're back after being gone, and we're excited to be here to talk to you about the pros and
combining words again.
the pros and cons of high-intensity exercise.
It's going to be a great topic today.
Yes.
I am Dr. Ayla Donlin.
And I'm Emily Sopo.
We're your Myzone Master Trainers. I hold my doctoral degree in educational leadership. Both Emily and I hold master's degrees in kinesiology, Emily in exercise science, and myself in sport and exercise psychology. We're both certified personal trainers and group fitness instructors. We use Myzone for our own personal workouts and, of course, to train all of our clients. And we're excited to bring both our education and our experience into play as we bring you content every Friday for Fitness Friday.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are logging in right now, give us a little wave, tell us who you are, where you're tuning in from, and then if you've worked out this morning or today at all, if you're in a different time zone, we would love to know that.
Yes, and particularly we would love to know what kind of a workout was it? Which zones were you in? Were you in the yellows and reds, the higher intensity zones, or were you in the blues and the greens, maybe the lower moderate intensity zones? Because we're going to be talking today about high intensity, as we mentioned, so we'd love to know it.
Yes, and as always, you can learn more about Myzone at myzone.org. We'll actually take you through how to get to the blog where Ayla and I contribute all sorts of content about how to use Myzone to make yourself more fit and to better your training.
Yes.
Hey, Max.
Hey Max, happy Fitness Friday.
Yeah.
All right, well, shall we get into the content?
Let's do it.
When did you want to show them how to navigate to the blog?
After we start.
Perfect,
Yeah.
just remind me.
Okay.
All right, so here we go, ladies and gents. We hear a lot of talk about high intensity exercise. A lot of people talk about how intense their workout was, that they were smashing a workout, that they earned a lot of MEPS points in the yellow and red zones, or talking about how much time they spent in the red zone. And whereas high intensity exercise is very important and beneficial in improving your fitness, there are some considerations as you're planning out your overall workout routine, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to highlight in brief some pros and cons of high intensity exercise, specifically high intensity cardio exercise. And we're going to define that as at or above 75% of your max heart rate on average for a duration of 10 minutes or more is what we would qualify as high intensity cardio exercise. So in Myzone terms, that's going to be the upper portion of the green above 75% and then all of yellow and red.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
When you say 10 minutes or more, do you have to sustain that higher intensity, or can it be up and down?
No, it can be up and down. So that's why it's 75% of your max heart rate on average for that duration of 10 minutes or longer. Because if you're doing high intensity interval training, you might be up in the 85, even 90% for 30 to 60 seconds, and then coming back down into the 70% range for another 30 or 60 seconds. So on average, great clarification question. All right, there's many different ways that you can perform high intensity cardio training. You can do high intensity steady state training, sometimes abbreviated with the acronym HISS, H-I-S-S. We sometimes will call that threshold training, where you're in a high intensity for an extended duration. There's also tempo training, where you're spending chunks of time up in higher duration and then chunks of time down in lower moderate duration. And then, of course, there's high intensity interval training, HIIT. And those are just a few examples of ways that you can perform high intensity cardio.
Yes, and Ayla and I both love high intensity cardio. Yes, I was just doing some myself this morning. And before we get into the meat of this topic, we would love to share with you content that we've already talked about. Ayla, would you mind grabbing your phone?
I would love to.
So we've contributed and I've written a ton of blogs on the myzone.org website with details about high intensity exercise, and so we're just going to show you really briefly how you can access those blogs.
Yes.
And we know it's backwards, we're sorry, but
do you want to talk it through and I'll hold and scroll?
Yes. Okay, so we're on myzone.org, where you can find out everything about Myzone, and then we'll go ahead and scroll to the very bottom. Boom, boom, boom. And you're going to look for our faces.
Oh,
so go
where
a little
are
higher,
they?
A little higher. It's hard to see
It's
it backwards.
really hard to see, and the glare makes it
There it
challenging,
is.
but there we are.
Looking for expert advice. Let's click on that little ding. Oh, this is kind of fun.
Bloop.
My finger is bigger in the phone. There we go. Okay. So meet the master trainers.
Master
Boom.
trainers. There we are. There's
There we
Emily.
are. Yep.
There's Ayla.
Good.
And then you can click on
It's check out
our blog, which is right here.
Boom.
It's kind of hard to click when you can't see it, huh?
It's kind of hard.
We
Don't
got
try
a
this
little
at home,
slow
folks.
connection, ladies and gents.
But you would click here, and as it's loading up, hopefully it'll actually go on. There it is. So tons of content, and a lot of this has to do with topics that we've covered on Fitness Friday before, but we'll just, I'll briefly mention a couple of the blogs that you might want to check out. The Yellow Zone, the Red Zone Common Questions, organizing your HIIT to maximize your workout. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've got info about Tabata, we've got sample HIIT workouts, all sorts of things. And you can also check out the Myzone Moves YouTube channel, where all the Fitness Fridays are previously posted and will oftentimes demo the workouts for you.
Yes. And hello, Nicole. Happy Fitness Friday.
Yes, thanks for
Enjoy
sharing.
Temecula.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Greg.
And here is the blog that we're talking about today, the pros and cons of high intensity exercise. So if you want to follow along, you can follow along on the myzone.org website on the blog.
Yes, thank you. All right, so keep in mind, folks, that high intensity exercise is not for everybody, even though it is beneficial in a lot of ways, but we want, you know, of course, to recommend what's going to best benefit you. So keep in mind that it should be noted that if you have an existing heart condition or ailment or injury that might prevent you or make high intensity exercise something that you shouldn't participate in, then we definitely would not recommend that for some individuals. But there are a lot of alternative options, and you can check out some of those options on myzone.org.
Of course.
Yes. Shall we hop right into the pros and cons?
All right, ladies and gents, some of the pros, the advantages, the highlights of high intensity training, cardio training. All right, 1, you're gonna burn more calories. You're gonna burn more calories in a shorter amount of time during high intensity cardio training than you would during moderate intensity steady state training. Further, you're gonna continue to burn calories at a higher rate as you're recovering from your workout, and that is a phenomena that we called, or a concept that's called, not that we called it, it's been labeled this for a long time. Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, abbreviated with the acronym EPOC, EPOC, and there's a link in the blog to the other blog that we wrote about EPOC, so you can learn more about that.
Yes.
Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, burning calories at a higher rate as you're recovering from your high-intensity cardio exercise. Number 2 pro. You're going to improve your aerobic capacity. So let's back up and define aerobic capacity. That's your body's ability to take in oxygen and transport it efficiently to your working muscles, and then for your working muscles to extract that oxygen and use it for energy production. We typically use maximal oxygen uptake, sometimes abbreviated as VO2 max, as a measure of aerobic capacity. And research indicates that our maximal oxygen uptake is going to increase to a greater extent when we perform high intensity cardio training versus moderate intensity steady state training. Further, HIIT training, high intensity interval training, might improve maximal oxygen uptake even more than high intensity steady state training, which is very interesting. And this may be due to us being able to hit higher intensities when we're doing HIIT training, because it's for a shorter duration, so we can pop up into that higher intensity and hit a little bit more than we would if we were doing high intensity steady state. So HIIT versus HISS. All right, another pro. You're going to increase your anaerobic threshold when performing high intensity cardio training. Anaerobic threshold is the level of oxygen consumption above which aerobic energy, so that's with oxygen, aerobic energy production is supplemented by anaerobic mechanisms, anaerobic without oxygen. So that causes a sustained increase in lactate and metabolic acidosis. It's a lot of words to basically say you're going to be supplementing your aerobic energy system with your anaerobic energy system at a certain level of intensity. So if we can bump that level of intensity, that threshold up higher, then we can stay at higher intensities for longer durations before fatigue sets in. And the fatigue is going to be as a result of that metabolic acidosis that we start to experience at that intensity. So when we work at intensities at or above our anaerobic threshold, which is going to be a high intensity zone, then we're going to gradually increase our anaerobic threshold.
Yes, awesome.
There we go.
Next pro of high intensity exercise is improved insulin sensitivity. So insulin is a hormone produced in the pancreas that helps regulate our metabolism by helping glucose enter into cells to use that glucose as energy, right? And so that's very important. Now, as we have more insulin sensitivity, what this means is that we really need less insulin to get the job done, right? And you've probably heard about insulin sensitivity or insulin insensitivity when you've heard of things like diabetes. So being insulin sensitive is a good thing that we want to have happen. So at both moderate and high intensity exercise, you should improve insulin sensitivity, especially if you are currently sedentary, but high intensity exercise may improve that insulin sensitivity to an even greater extent.
Yes.
Which is good.
Well said.
Well, thank you. All right, the final pro, just in time for the airplane, is shorter duration workouts. So we're busy, we know that you're busy, and sometimes getting in a long workout can be really challenging. So high intensity exercise is somewhat a solution for that, because we don't have to perform it as long in order to reap all of the pros, the benefits that we've already explained here. So you've probably heard us talk in the past about the World Health Organization and American College of Sports Medicine recommendations on exercise frequency and really duration. So they recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardiorespiratory exercise per week. That's moderate. Or 75 minutes, that's a lot less, of high intensity exercise per week. So you can still reap, you know, the same, if not even more, health and fitness benefits by doing less work overall, or less time overall, rather. Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Does that wrap up our pros?
Yeah. Let's get
Okay,
to the
so
cons.
those are some of the pros of high intensity cardio training. Let's get into some of the cons. Number one, high intensity cardio training. I keep saying that over and over and over again, so you're going to know clearly what it is. We put a lot of stress on our muscles, joints, and nervous system when we're performing high intensity exercise. It's going to be more impactful on our joints and our connective tissues, and it's probably going to cause more strain on both our muscles and our nervous system than low or moderate intensity cardio would. So if you're performing high impact exercises when you're doing your cardio training, things like jumping, running, shuffling, items like that, then you may want to vary your routine so that you're providing a break for your joints, your connective tissue, and your muscles. And in terms of giving your nervous system a little bit of a break, we've talked about this a lot before. If you have a day where you're performing a lot of high intensity training, the next day you might want to choose as an active recovery day or even a full rest day. Do some active or light cardio or light resistance training to give yourself and your nervous system a little bit of a break to be ready to go again. And of course there's the psychological component, and that's kind of related to what I'm going to talk about next as the second con. You're at higher susceptibility to overtraining or burnout when you're doing high intensity exercise, because that's very demanding on both the physiological components of your body and the psychological components. Do you ever feel that, where you have to like rev up and get ready to go for a high intensity workout because you know that it's going to be demanding? And so there's the psychological piece of getting yourself motivated and ready to go and to push through some of the fatigue and some of the, I guess, discomfort that can come with high intensity exercise, right? So check out our blog about overtraining, because that gives you some tools on how to avoid overtraining and burnout. And make sure, just as I mentioned in the point above, that you're inserting active or passive recovery days in between your high intensity days so as to avoid overtraining or burnout. Not fun.
Yes, and as someone who has overtrained and injured myself during my overtraining period, it is not fun. So please make sure that you are listening to your body. You don't need to go all out all the time in every workout. It's important to take those lighter intensity or moderate intensity days as well.
Yes, and I think that that's the key piece, and we've talked about that a lot before in terms of listening to your body. If you're someone who maps out your workouts ahead of time, and then once you've determined that that day is going to be a high intensity day, you struggle with changing the plan, I would really encourage you to listen to your body, and if your body is telling you that it's just really not feeling the high intensity that day, reschedule it. Take your active recovery day on that day and then reschedule your high intensity day to the next day, because it's not worth pushing through if you're at risk of an overuse injury because you've tried to push through.
Yes, and it can certainly cause the next con, which is actually irritable mood. Now, exercise oftentimes causes us to feel elated and happy, and a lot of research has indicated that moderate intensity exercise has this effect. However, research is a little bit mixed on high intensity exercise. I know for me it causes me to be in a great mood, but for others it might kind of cause an irritability with them. So just be, noting during your high intensity workouts how you're feeling afterwards, and if you need to make any adjustments. You can also track this using Myzone. When you go into the Myzone app and you look at your workout, you can rate your workout, and you can give it a little happy or sad face depending on how you felt after the workout. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your workouts. Yeah,
and I think related to that, to the irritable mood piece, if you're someone who usually does experience a boost in your mood following high intensity exercise, an elevated mood experience, but then you notice that you start to experience irritable mood after high intensity training, that might be an indication of some overtraining, some overuse, and spiraling toward a little bit of burnout. So you can use mood as kind of a litmus test for how am I responding physiologically, psychologically to high intensity exercise right now.
Yeah, and of course at the end of the day, you are the best judge of how your exercise impacts you. So make sure that you are really thinking about, whether or not this workout was good for you mentally and physically, and play around with it. Play around with the frequency and the intensity of your workouts to find something that's sustainable, because we all know that, over time, the consistency piece is what's really going to make a difference.
Exactly, and you've heard us say before that we would recommend high intensity cardio exercise 2 to 3 days a week because of the nature of it. And so that's exactly what Emily was just talking about, in terms of you need to play around with that to see what works best for your body, and see what's the right rhythm for you and your workout routine. But we've recommended 2 or 3 days a week. That's usually what works best for me, so find what works for you.
Yeah. We would love for you to share this content with your friends. So you can either share the video, and I see that a few of you have already done that. Thank you so much. But you can also share with them just by commenting their name in the comment section below this video on Facebook. We love to get the message out and be smart about our workouts.
Yes, and as you're posting, don't forget to use the hashtags MyZoneMoves and hashtag #EffortRewarded. Make sure you're connecting with us as social connections via the Myzone app and your pals that you're working out with, so that you can encourage one another through your routines.
Yes, and if you have any content requests for the future, make sure that you comment below so that we know what content we should bring to you every week.
Yes. All right.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next week, and
as always,
keep moving forward. Bye.
Have a great weekend, everybody.